Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and my space and back to one of my Astrology Made Easy videos. Today we are going to be discussing Chiron. Now, what is Chiron? Chiron is the wounded warrior. So wherever he is at in your natal chart, that is where you are going to undergo the most karmic transformation. You are dealing with either past life trauma that you have to work out in this life or early life trauma that you have to work out in this life, depending on what you believe. Now, with Chiron, it always brings a sense of like pouring salt on an open wound. These are wounds that take forever to heal. They are open so hard that you think you get over them, you think you have let them go, you think you've gotten over them, and then boom, it happens again, and then bam, you're in pain again. It's like the wound is fresh again. So this constantly happens throughout this one area in your life. Wherever you have it in your chart, this is where it constantly happens. And it is meant for you to eventually heal from, eventually get over, learn the karmic lesson, balance your karma. And when you can do that, you have fulfilled your Chiron. So, there are many different myths about Chiron. I might, I think in the description box below, I will link a myth, the myth of Chiron. One of the sites that I read the myth of Chiron, because Chiron has this whole mythological thing around him. And if I got into it in the video, I could be here for like 50 minutes. So and I like to keep these videos short and easy. So that's what essentially Chiron is. It is where we have our wounds, where we are wounded the most, that we keep repeating over and over and over and over again until we learn our lesson. And once we learn our lesson, then it heals and then we can move on. So, Chiron through the houses. I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about Chiron in each house and what wounds you could be working with there. So I am going to note that this can be triggering. This can be triggering because I'm bringing up wounds. All right. I'm opening a wound. So wherever you have Chiron in your chart, you can go ahead to the timestamp below and see if that fits or if you can relate with that. These are basic energies. Just keep in mind, because I don't know what other planets you have in there and what other signs are in there as well. So this is just the basic description. All right, so let's talk Chiron in the first house. Chiron in the first house is a wound around your identity, how you identify. You might undergo a lot of identity crises throughout your life. Or on the flip side, you might remain the same and afraid to change. Now, see, this is where I say you have to see what sign is in the first house as well with Chiron, because I know because I have seen Chiron in the first house with Taurus. All right. So Chiron in the first house with Taurus, they do not like to change. They are afraid of changing their identity. They are afraid of if they change who they are, the world's not going to like them anymore. And that's one of their biggest karmic lessons. They're very insecure about with the way that they look, about with the way that they are, and how they present themselves to the world. So they want to remain the way that the world does like them. So that's like, with Taurus being there. But with other signs there, Chiron can mean a very different thing. But for the most part, Chiron in your first house, it's all about your identity. Some people may switch up their identities millions of times throughout their lifetime because they keep getting hurt. Their insecurities get very hurt. That is one thing about Chiron being in the first house. You are very insecure because you are afraid of people not liking you, because somewhere in your past you were discriminated for who you were. In your past, you stood up. You liked being who you were, and people beated you down, and there was something emotionally traumatizing, whether in a younger version of yourself or past life version of yourself, okay? There was something traumatizing around your self-identity and your self-image, okay? And so now that's why you have Chiron there. You got to heal that wound. You've got to work on your self-image, work on your own self-esteem, and let go of your insecurities. Chiron in the second house. Now, these are people who are very money driven. These are people who physically fear not having places to live, not having that stability. They fear not having stability. And it's because in their past, either they were raised poor and they really didn't have much, or in their past life, they were in poverty and they suffered poverty very badly, to the detriment that it wounded their soul. It wounded their soul so bad that Chiron is now in the second house. With Chiron in the second house, these people got to understand and they got to realize that money and stability isn't everything. All right. They might go through challenges in life where they might gain money, but then lose money out of nowhere. Or they might have a place to live and then all of a sudden something comes out and pulls the rug out from under them and they don't have a place to live anymore. These are and it's the same with the self-worth. Like the self-worth can all of a sudden be there one day and then be gone the next. With Chiron in the second house, that's what this is about. It's about you realizing that stability comes and goes, but your self-worth is more, is what's worth more, okay? It's not in the material world that we find our stability. It's stability within ourselves is where we find our stability, if that makes any sense. But that's Chiron in the second house. Chiron in the third house. Okay, so Chiron in the third house, this is all about our communication. This is about early education. This is about your neighborhood. This is about your siblings, okay? This is the house that rules all that. Now, if you have Chiron here, this is where you could have learning disabilities when you're in school. You could have communication disabilities, like have a stutter and it prohibits you from academically advancing. No, I don't have Chiron in my third house. But I do have Chiron in Gemini, so Gemini rules the third house. But anyways, so you could have problems with your siblings. You could always be at war with your siblings, or there could be some type of wound or emotional baggage around your siblings. Within your neighborhood, there could be those, it's like no matter where you move, you always have those neighbors that are always fighting with you or always blaming you for something. It could be hidden enemies within your neighborhood as well. So that is Chiron in the third. Chiron in the fourth. Now, the fourth is all about your family roots. This is about your home. This is about your hearth. This is about your nurturing. The fourth house is also about your mother because the moon rules the fourth house, and the moon is the mother figure. So if you have Chiron here, you could have ups and downs and problems with your mother, or with the person that was motherly towards you as a child. It could be a grandmother, it could be an aunt, whoever took that mother role on, that there could be a wound right there. It could be that you lost your mother at an early age. It could be that there is something within your family, some type of wound emotionally, an emotional wound from the time you were born that needs to be healed, that constantly repeats over and over and over and over and over again throughout your life. Also, past life. It could be that, in a past life, you and your mother were at odds, were at war, or that you didn't really have that stable home, that stable family life. Maybe you were an orphan. It could also mean that you're an orphan in this life. That is an orphan placement to me. It also can mean with Chiron here that your last transition from life, from death, could have been an extremely hard one for you. These are things that you need to emotionally get over and emotionally move and evolve past. So it's definitely a deep emotional wound that happens when you have Chiron in your fourth house. You emotionally suffer, like emotionally more suffer with Chiron in the fourth. With Chiron in the fifth, this is all about your children. This is about your fun. This is about your, the fifth house is all about fun, children, games, childlike behavior, innocence, okay? Your creative spark, your creativeness, all right? With Chiron here, there could have been something when you were younger that stunted your creativity. Maybe it could be that you lost a sibling. It could be that there is some type of disconnect between you and your own kids because of the way that you were raised. Maybe you have a hard time letting loose, have a hard time having fun. But like I said, it also depends on the sign that you have right there. This could be where you're not really connected with your creative side, or you struggle with your creative side a lot. It also could be that you want to be creative, you want to be talented, you want to stand out, but for some other reason you just don't. And that takes an emotional effect on you. It kind of hits your self-esteem a little bit. So with Chiron in the fifth house, this also could talk about the loss of a child, you losing a child later on in life. It's about all the lessons and the karmic wounds stemmed around childhood, stemmed around your childlike innocence, what you find fun, what you find creative. So anything that that it also can stem childhood trauma. That could be something, maybe you weren't allowed to have fun when you were younger. Maybe you were not allowed to explore your creative talents. This is because the fifth house is all about your creativity as well. So it could be that you weren't allowed to explore your creative talents. And every time you do get creative and you do have something that you think is good and right, somebody knocks it down and says, no, it's not. So this is something that you might encounter over and over and over and over again throughout your life. Chiron in the sixth house of daily routine and health. Now, daily routine and health, goes to show you right there. So there might be something, from a past life where maybe you had a lot of structure, a lot of routine, and that got disrupted, or that got disrupted in a crazy crazy way. And now you strive to have that routine, and that some people with this placement can be overly OCD, or they could fall on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like they they can't have a routine. They have no routine. They can't get things done. No matter how much they plan shit out, it just doesn't get done. It doesn't get accomplished. This can also, with Chiron in the 6th house, this can also talk about medical problems. There might be some medical problems that go away and then come back and then go away and then come back and then go away and then come back. Like I said, Chiron is the wound that goes away, it comes back, it goes away, it comes back, to see if we have learned, to see if we have healed. And sometimes those wounds get reopened. So that's Chiron in the 6th. Chiron in the 7th. Now this is where my Chiron falls, so I am an expert on this one. Well, not really. But, okay, so Chiron in the 7th. The 7th house is all about your relationships. With Chiron being here, in a past life, maybe you backstabbed some people to get what you want, to climb that hierarchy. So in this life, you are reliving that wound. So it's kind of like you have hidden enemies within your relationship. This is the hidden enemies place. So like you think that somebody's your best friend, but then all of a sudden they stab you in the back. And yes, that happens to a lot of people, right? Even if you don't have Chiron in the 7th house. But for somebody who has Chiron in the 7th house, it's every single relationship. Or it feels like every single relationship has done that to you. It feels like you are abandoned. It brings this sense of abandonment. It brings this sense of victim mode. Like, how come I'm not lovable? Why me? Why am I not lovable? Why do I always get stabbed in the back? You know what I mean? So that is something that happens over and over and over again, whether it's in a business relationship, whether it's in a family ship, whether it's in a relationship. It's just the people that you interact with. You have hidden enemies. You might think that they're your best friend, and then all of a sudden they stab you in the back. But when they stab you in the back, it's a lot harder for you to take, because it seems like every single relationship that you go through that. And you will continue to go through that until you can learn the lesson of how to pick your true friends. And once you do that and you see why, you can heal the wound and move on. But with Chiron in the 7th, it's all about those hidden enemies. Chiron in the 8th, this is all about your transformation. There are going to be times where you feel like and I don't want to trigger anybody, but this is a common suicide placement. This is the house of death we're talking about here. And when you put Chiron there, all right, so very, very traumatic things happen around death. You could have lost lots of loved ones in your past. You might be that person that constantly feels like they're losing somebody. And you are that person that has been through so much emotional pain, so much emotional baggage, and it's like it keeps reliving itself, and no matter how deep you bury it, Chiron keeps bringing it back up to the surface. So having Chiron here, I really feel like this is like a suicide placement, and I hate to say that, and I don't want to trigger anybody, but that is what my take is on it. So you really want, if you have Chiron here, you really want to watch those thoughts. And also you got to understand that the reason why you have Chiron here is not so that you can do that, but it's so that you actually have a better chance with Chiron being here of transforming, of moving on. Once you can get over that one little hurdle. All right. Chiron in the 9th house. Now, people with Chiron in the 9th house, you might be afraid of foreign travel. You might be afraid of traveling in general. You might be afraid of, going outside of your beliefs or outside of your religion. These are people that tend to stick to their own religion. This is because in the past they were persecuted for their religion, or in the past they have traveled overseas and have died a horrible, violent death. So Chiron here, it's like teaching you the lesson that it's okay to do this now. It's okay to expand yourself. It's okay to travel. It's okay to go beyond your means. It's not going to happen to you this lifetime. But you might feel like every time you do that, something bad happens and it shocks you back into your shell. Okay, this is Chiron's wound reopening. So you have a lot of wounds and a lot of emotional trauma around your spiritual beliefs, around your travel, around traveling. You might not believe in that. You might be afraid of that. And this can also stem from your childhood. It can stem from your father. It can stem from maybe being afraid of your father. Maybe your father had strict, or whoever was the father figure. This could be having a loss of a father figure as well. The loss of a father figure. So that is Chiron in the 9th. So Chiron in the 10th. Your 10th house is your status, is your career. Wherever Chiron is in your chart, it brings havoc. It is hard to accomplish. So if you have Chiron in your 10th, you could be the type that maybe gets looked over for jobs all the time. Maybe it's very hard for you to find a job. Maybe once you do have a job, you get fired very quickly. It's hard to maintain that work and status career. This is where your challenges are. This is where you need to really step up and put, your big boy pants on. But it's hard because you have Chiron here. Because in the past, maybe you overworked yourself too much and you overworked yourself to the point of death. You know what I mean? You overworked yourself to death. And you pushed away a lot of, the people that you cared about, a lot of the people that you loved, because you were so focused on your status, your career. And it caused, at the end of your life, upon your death, it caused a big wound. So now it's like you're kind of self-sabotaging yourself. That's another thing I should have said throughout this entire video is Chiron is usually the place where we self-sabotage ourselves, because this is bringing up emotions that are not so much healed. So this could be where you have a hard time keeping a job, you have a hard time keeping a good reputation, and it's going to keep repeating until you can learn to heal that wound and close that wound. Chiron in the 11th house. Okay, so the 11th house is all about the global scale. It's about humanity as a whole. It's about your humanity. It's about, everybody else's humanity. It's about, future forward thinking, future forward inventions. So having Chiron here, this could be where you don't get humanity, you don't get society. You have a hard time getting humanity and society. This could be a common serial killer placement. And I really don't want to trigger anybody, or anybody think, oh, I have Chiron there, so I'm going to be a serial killer. No, but it is a serial killer placement, because this is, wherever Chiron is, it's extremely hard for you to do. Okay. And with the 11th house, that's all about humanitarianism. That's about your humanity. That's about where your humanity lies, how you can move forward, how you can think forward, right? People who have Chiron here also have a hard time coming up with new concepts or giving in to new concepts. And this is where a lot of their wounds lie. Maybe in a past life, they were too open and too caring and too forward thinking that it stunted them and it hurt them so badly that in this lifetime they're a little bit more closed off to humanity, to future forward ideas, to helping their man. These are people that could be introverted. And it's really hard because every time they step outside, they get burned. So they have to come back inside, if you see what I mean. It makes it hard to communicate with the world on a global scale. Communication here is very hard for them as well. There's a lot of wounds around that. So that's Chiron in the 11th. So Chiron in the 12th. Oh my God. Okay, so Chiron in the 12th. I feel sorry for these people because you don't know what your wound is. Your wound hides from you. Your emotional wounds hide from you. And then they replay themselves out at night, okay? So my mother has Chiron in the 12th. And nightmares. Nightmares are a big thing for these people who have Chiron in the 12th because your emotions are hidden from you. All right, so there is a deep emotional wound that happened to you, or some deep emotional wounds could be more than one, from a past life or from your early childhood life that you've completely blocked out, completely forgot about, and it gives you nightmares over and over and over and over again. These are the people who sleepwalk. These are the people who do things in their sleep. These are the people who have sleep paralysis, like big cases of sleep paralysis. These are the people who it could go the opposite way. These people could suffer from insomnia, narcolepsy, anything to do with, anything to do with hidden emotion. These people could fall into escapism, alcoholism, drugism, addiction. Okay, these are the people that hide from their pain, from their emotional wounds in something else, and they don't realize that they're doing it. So that's Chiron in the 12th. Like I said, my mother has Chiron in the 12th, so it's crazy. But that is Chiron through the houses. If this video helped you out in any way, shape, or form, please make sure you give it a like. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know how this resonates with you and your Chiron placement. If you have any questions, I will be sure to answer them if you put them down there. And if you would like to get more Astrology Made Easy videos, I upload one every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell is on. Until the next astrology video, I hope you all stay safe and stay kind to one another. Until the next video, bye.